Hello again, nerds. Speaking of nerds, hold on. Okay, sorry. Connection on the camera was a little janky. Hi. Thank you for joining me for another nerdy reaction video. This one is actually kind of a nerdy band to react to. Clutch, for those that don't know, it's also a bit of a stoner band to react to, but that's not what you're going to get here. We're going to get nerdy about this real quick. So thank you for joining me. This is another one that I've been really excited to do a reaction video for because this is another band that I really, really love. And this is a band that I think definitely has a lot of things going on that we talk about frequently on these reaction breakdown videos. So with that being said, I gotta get this little piece out of the way.
Before we get any further into this video, let's get a couple of things out of the way. First, if you want to listen to this song or watch this video in whole without my commentary, then go do that. This is not the place for that. This is a reaction and analysis video. We're here for a conversation, not for a watch party. I'm going to be stopping this video, talking over certain parts, and replaying certain parts, so get used to it. Second, my analysis is my opinion. My opinion comes from a place of knowledge. I have over 30 years of musical training and experience, 20 years as a professional musician and producer, and almost 10 years as a video producer and director. I know what I'm talking about. All that being
Whoops, I didn't mean to cut that short. It got cut short. Either way, I don't know exactly where that ended up, but I know what I'm talking about. Intro is going to change soon for these videos, but again, I do these in batches, so all of the ones for this batch will have the same old intro. I'm over talking about it at this point. If you question me, please do. I really enjoy the back and forth that I have, especially when people disagree with my takes on things. Generally speaking, I still feel like I'm right in the end of it. So I don't know, I guess change my mind, but whatever. Yeah, so let's go. My history with Clutch. I don't know if we've done a reaction video to Clutch. We might have, so whatever. I'm going to do it again. So I found Clutch because my bass player, excuse me, in the band that I was in, 15 years ago, was really into Clutch, and the lead guitar player, same band, was also really into Clutch, so they kind of bonded over that, and I was like, who is this band of which you speak? And they showed me the first record with Spacegrass. Oh, I almost forgot the name of Spacegrass. Can you believe that? Show me Spacegrass, and I went, oh, wow, these guys are really interesting. What the hell is this guy singing about? And come to find out, a whole lot of nothing. Neil definitely just, at that time anyway, used to just put words together because nonsense was more fun. And he's said as much in interviews in not so many words, but similar. So just the absurdity of the lyrics and the bluesy kind of heaviness to the instrumentation, and the fact that they were, instrumentally speaking, at most they were a four-piece. Sometimes, like Beale Street to Oblivion, they also had a harmonica player, and they've added other instruments for other reasons, but by and large they are a four-piece. Generally, though, they are a three-piece because Neil doesn't always play the guitar. He's just the vocalist for a good majority of the stuff. Oh, I think we did the reaction video for the crab cakes song. I don't remember the name of the song, but it's How to Make Crab Cakes. Yeah, so that's kind of my history. I've seen them 3 or 4 times at this point. Really, really like Clutch. The things that I think they excel at as far as musicianship and the audio production, generally speaking, they know the pocket like almost nobody else in rock and roll does. Their rhythm section, JP, and I forget their bass player's name, just have the pocket in a death grip. They just know what to do with it and how to work it, and that I think is one of the biggest things about it. But also their guitar player, man, just really has some groovy riffs coming out of those fingers, and it's so great. But they don't generally suffer too much from rock bass syndrome, even though like other bands that are similar to them usually do. So I think that is definitely a plus, and we'll probably talk about that because there's going to be a little bit of it here. They're not the greatest when it comes to like layering and crazy amounts of bass, but it's not the genre that we're into. So that kind of is an interesting segue into expectations for this video. I really don't know what to expect as far as video production goes because I saw this on a headline in Blabbermouth, I think, and so I've only seen like a couple of images from it. I think it's just another performance video, probably in some sort of practice area, so probably not a whole lot visually crazy going on. Maybe there's going to be some effects and stuff, judging by the first frame. I do think it's really interesting that this is written about the title comes from a distortion pedal, the Boss Metal Zone. But it's also, the lyrical content is like some sort of science fiction drama thing. So I'm really interested to hear that. As far as expectations go for the sounds that we're about to hear, I think it's going to be groovy as hell. I think there's going to be some really awesome riffage. I don't know if it's going to be heavy like they were for a little while. Pure Rock Fury was a great record because of the heaviness. Strange Cousins, not Strange Cousins, that was the live record. I can't think of the other one right about the Elephant Riders. There we go. Elephant Riders was also really heavy. There was a couple of other really great heaviness. They don't get super heavy though, so I feel like that's why they are as widely loved as they are, is because they're groovy without being too abrasive. And I think it's just going to be more of that. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of breaking the clutch mold, if you will. But I am definitely open to them trying. All of that being said, I think we are now to the point. I know I get so many comments about, man, you talk a lot. Pay attention to the intro, bro. Yeah, I think we are now ready for the part where we do the stuff. So let's make it big and play the thing. Why can't I hear it? Oh, it's a little Blade Runner going on. All right, so this is the thing. This is a little. This is a new record. Sonically, this is a little different than Clutch has done. Not performance-wise, but recording-wise, is a little different from previous Clutch outings because there's not as much bottom end in this mix. This seems really thin for them. Which kind of is putting me off a little bit. I love that Rickenbacker that he plays, though. Oh my god, it's so sexy. But yeah, otherwise, I feel like this is right in line with. I really dug that panning effect where we switched from the verse into presumably the pre-chorus, where he stood up and the things happened. But yeah, that was. I'm not digging this mix as much, but we do have, as far as the performance goes, we do have a little bit more bass action than most rock and roll tunes like this, as expected. But I guess I didn't really verbalize this at the beginning. The thing about the way these two go back and forth, the bass and guitar on this band, is he's kind of going note for note with the guitar, which a lot of not a lot of big bands do. A lot of smaller bands do that, but when you're playing things that groovy, man, I think it's a really fun thing to do, to play with those sonics like that. I personally would, again, I'm not in Clutch. I don't make millions of dollars making money, so who the hell am I to say? But I personally would do a little more harmonizing with the guitar, because you have a lot more harmonizing options because you have a lot more, well, 2 more strings. But yeah, I feel like that's been something about Clutch that I've always been a little bit nitpicky about. Is like, I love them, again, seen them a few times, and will definitely be seeing them at least another half a dozen more times before I die, or before they die. But I just, that is one thing that's always kind of like, there's something more that could be happening here to make this even better. And I feel like that something more would be some different harmonies coming from the guitar, since the bass player is playing so many notes. That's why the rock bass syndrome is a bad thing when it's a bad thing, is because the bass player can fill in so much more room, and so the guitar player can have so much more freedom to color the emotion of the track, can color the feeling of the song a little bit more when the bass is active, and he's a very active bass player. So yeah, again, nitpicky, love Clutch. Continuing on. Ooh. Okay, so that was unique. Not to say that they've never done something like that before, but that was bass only. It was. That explains the mix, though, to me. So what I'm going to elaborate on these words. I'm going to stop tripping over myself. That distorted bass, if that's the effect that he's playing with through the whole thing, that explains why it seems a little thinner. Because distortion on bass, while I love it, and I think it's a thing that should happen much more often in music, especially in heavy music, there is definitely an argument to be made about why you shouldn't do it very much in rock and roll music, and that is because it takes away from the bottom end of the mix. There are ways to fix that, or there are, you could, the simplest of which would be to tone back the distortion a little bit, tone back that drive, so you get just a little bit of crunch, but you still have a lot on the bottom end. And it feels like he's a little higher on the drive than he used to be. So that very well could explain why the mix seems a little thin to me. I'm not saying I can't hear the bass. I'm not saying the bass isn't there. It's obviously there. I can hear it. But it could be more present, and it could fill out the bottom end of the sonics much more gooder. Continuing. All right, we went back. So what we're listening to, what we went back to, is that that distorted bass. And there is a difference between distortion and overdrive. I am not going to go into the nuance of the differences. Effectively, the rudimentary way of saying it is distortion is just overdrive turned to 11. Effectively, it's more overdrive. Again, there are differences, and I realize this and I recognize this. This is not the platform to go into those kind of nuances. Let's listen to that distorted bass, and then that kind of, the thing about when you come to a song that has these different elements and the dynamics play like this, it gives you the capacity to appreciate all of the different parts in a more fulfilling way. Sorry, trying to find the words. Because once you hear it by itself, then you can go back and listen to it again, and oh, now I hear what he's doing there, because I know your ears are trained to look for the nuance of that instrument, I guess. So I appreciate that they did that here, especially because this is a little bit of a different tone for Clutch. Oops. There we go. Right here. Oh, I love that. And now we're into That's overdrive, but that's also gain because we're listening to him talk. Okay, so that also informs this tone that we're getting here. This I'm gonna get back to doing reaction videos with my bass in my hand because then we can find these notes. But this tone that we're getting right here, what I was hearing as guitar distortion, I now realize is bass distortion, and the guitar has a little bit more of a clean tone than the bass, so that's really interesting. So the bass is living a little bit more in the mids rather than in the lows, and the guitar is living much more in the highs than in the mids. So very, again, a little bit different of a sound for these guys, just on a real rudimentary EQ level. It does sound a little bit dirtier now that we have that information, too. So it's a dirtier bass tone on the bass, and it's a much more precise, or a distortion tone rather, on the bass, and it's much more precise distortion on the guitar. So I mean, it's still the dynamics are there. It's just different. I still dig it. I still think it's great. Not gonna lie. All right, and we didn't talk anything about the video production of this because it's all blue screen or green screen. And it's all obviously them doing a take on Blade Runner. So there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing really like surprising about it. I guess those, see if we can go find, there we go. These are pretty unique. So we have a couple of things going on here visually. Go back even further so we can get the whole thing. So we have an echo effect. Looks like 3 times over. We have a blur effect that's fading. Looks like it's just trying to make the camera look like it's focusing right here at the tip of his nose, and then it's just a really shallow depth of field, but I don't believe that's exactly what's going on. That looks like Gaussian blur and not like camera blur. The thing that would be difficult for me to do with this shot, and that's just because I'm not the greatest in After Effects, is all of the electric stuff going on in his like forehead and his face and all of the lights there. Because those are not projected onto his face. Those are put there in post, it looks like. Just judging by the way they stick to his movements. But it's a really cool effect. And I don't know how that plays into the story of the video, but we haven't been paying that close of attention to the story of the video because it's just them doing Blade Runner in a way. But yeah, we're going to continue from this spot, even though we just listened to it, because I dig this tune. That line's just funny because Rutger Hauer and his improvised speech in Blade Runner. It's a spaceship. It's not a horse, it's a spaceship. Oh, this is just going to be credits. This is looks like it's all done in like Blender or something, some sort of 3D rendering software. That's really cool. And then probably, so what they did was they built the cityscape and probably did all of the lighting in something like Blender, and then these video patches on the sides of the buildings are very likely put in there with After Effects. But I've never used Blender, so I don't know that for sure. Hey, look, Neil Fallon, JP, that's the drummer, Dan Maines, and Tim. I think Tim is the guitar player and Dan is the bass player, but I could be wrong because, again, sometimes I don't remember names so well. I know Neil and I know JP because they're the greatest. I think the whole band's great. And continuing on. Yeah, I guess there's nothing really left here. So that puts us at final thoughts, I would imagine. Weathermaker Corp. That's their record label. No, stop. All right, so final thoughts on Boss Metal Zone from Clutch. Again, nothing really groundbreakingly different from Clutch. We didn't really expect it to be groundbreakingly different. It's just a lot of fun. Clutch is a great band. More people need to listen to these guys. I know Finn McKenty doesn't understand why people dig Clutch as much as they do, and I'm not a person in drug culture, so like you can't say it's because they're 420 friendly, because I don't really care that they're 420 friendly. They're just good musicians, and I feel like, not to throw too much negative whatever over at Finn, but I just feel like people who are elitist like Finn is, and I've been accused of being an elitist myself, because people don't understand when you're being critical. That doesn't mean you dislike something. Anyway, I genuinely feel like, even though I just said that, I genuinely feel like sometimes Finn, I'm going to continue to use him as the example because he's like the personification of a lot of dudes in the scene. I feel like he doesn't understand things because he's an elitist and whatever, yada, yada, yada. And it's just, he's not seeing the forest for the trees. He's trying to quantify everything, and you don't have to quantify everything. It's not, they don't play the most intricate, heavy stuff ever. They just play rockin' tunes, and it's a lot of fun to listen to. And they're good blues players. If you see them live and you're lucky enough, I can't remember the name of their side project, but the three dudes that play the instruments, aside from Neil, have a side project where sometimes they'll open up a show and just play blues for like an hour before they then come back out for another hour and a half, 2 hours as Clutch to rock your face off even more. So yeah, they're really talented players, and I think that's why they're so popular, and that's where we're going to leave this, because I'm just going to keep rambling and gushing. So thank you for joining me, nerds. If you have not joined us, please do so. Every Wednesday we do a pop culture headlines news show where we talk about all of the things going on TV, streaming, movies, tech, gaming. We have a rumor mill that seems to do pretty well. You can check that out right on the YouTube Generally Nerdy, or if you want to just check out the smaller sections, then the Nerd News Clips is where you can see that. You have to subscribe in order to do it, because you won't know that I've posted a video unless you're subscribed and or you have liked one of my videos. So go ahead and like this right now. Also, every Friday night we do a live news show for an hour, and then we play games and stream and talk about whatever comes to mind for the second hour to 3 hours. So join us there every Friday night, 7:30. Mountain Time, and I think that's all of the things we got to say. So thank you again for joining me, nerds. Go check out Clutch if you have the opportunity, because they definitely deserve more in-depth listening and need to stay relevant, because they are fantastic players, and we're going to leave you there. Before we do, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.